Hi guys, and welcome back to another video game with the powers. I'm Jake, and in today's video, I'll be giving you my in-depth review of the board game Northwest, published by Brickhouse Games. Now, Northwest is a game for 2 to 4 players, ages 7+ and right around 30 minutes per playthrough. This is designed by Rick Howe and illustrated by Isaac Lefevre. And Isaac, I do apologize if I mispronounce your name wrong, and same to you as well, Rick. All right, guys, well, look, if this is your first time watching an in-depth review from us, so we go maybe a little bit more in-depth than maybe some other content creators do, and we go ahead and break the game down into 7 different categories. These categories are theme, components, setup, length, difficulty, replayability, and price. Within each of these 7 different categories, I'm gonna go ahead and give them a number rating equivalent to the BGG scale. And at the conclusion of me talking about these 7 different categories, I will go ahead and then give my overall rating. Within that overall rating, guys, I'm gonna talk about some things I really enjoyed about the game and some things that I particularly did not like about the game. And last but not least, to go ahead and wrap up the video, since majority of these games that I review in our collection, I have either backed on Kickstarter or GameFound, I will ask the proverbial question: if I had the opportunity to back this game again, would I do so? All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump straight into this review, starting off with the theme. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually give the theme a 6 out of 10 here. I think it's just okay. I think the theme can sometimes get lost in the mechanics of the game. And so Northwest, essentially what you guys are doing is you and your fellow hikers are going on a hike, and you are trying to collect the best mementos that you find in the forest. And so you guys are gonna collectively play as one hiker, and you're going to be taking turns moving this hiker around the board, collecting these different momentum cubes of like mushrooms and bees and things like that. But like, again, from a thematic sense, is you can't really collect bees, or like there's a Bigfoot in there, you can't really collect Bigfoot. So it's like you see a bee and you see a Bigfoot and you're kind of noting it down in your journal, but sometimes you might collect a mushroom. But all that being said, it basically is a set collection style game. And while I think there is a good theme here, I think it does sometimes get lost in the mechanics of the game because you are just focused on trying to collect the cubes that are going to be able to score you the most amount of points. And so that's why I'm kind of giving this one a 6 out of 10. I think the theme here is just kind of okay. I actually want to go ahead and jump down to the table, guys, and show you the mechanics of this game and how it ties directly into this theme. All right, guys, so we're down here at the table where we would have everything set up for a game of Northwest. And as I mentioned, you guys are going to be collectively taking on the role of a hiker, and you are going to be going around this board trying to collect these different cubes, put them in your journal, and then at the end of the game, you're going to score based on the different sets of cubes that you collect. So each of the particular cubes you see here, we got mushrooms, we have bees, we have Bigfoot, we have ferns, and we have maple leaves. They are going to have their own scoring condition. As well, what's also really unique about this game is depending on the cube that the previous player took, that is going to determine your movement. So mushrooms are going to have a certain movement, maples, ferns, bees, and Bigfoot. So for example, if a player takes a Bigfoot, you could then take any other cube in the row or the column. All right. Bees, if anybody takes a bees, it's going to be an L shape, just like the horse or the knight in chess. Ferns are up, down, left, and right. Maples are only diagonal, and then mushrooms are anywhere one space away. So let me rephrase that. Mushrooms up, down, left, or right, or diagonal, one space away. Maples diagonal, one space away. Ferns up, down, left, or right, one space away. Bees are just moves like a knight or a horse in chess, and then Bigfoot is any row or column. And so you guys are just going to take turns moving this particular hike around, collecting these different cubes. And so I'd have to go 1, 2, boom, and then I collect a Bigfoot, put the Bigfoot over there, and then I'd come over here and grab a maple leaf. And you're going to be, again, placing these cubes in this journal. And whenever you place a cube, it has to go orthogonally adjacent to a cube that you previously placed. And so that's basically the essential mechanics of the game, guys, is you are just taking these cubes and placing them into your journal to try and score the most points at the end of the game. And like I mentioned, not a good theme here, but again, it can kind of get overshadowed with the fact of really it just becomes okay, I'm looking at this board and what do I need? I need another fern because I got 3 ferns in a row, and that's going to score me 2 points, and that's going to be able to be the highest effective way I can score points. So the theme does kind of get lost sometimes, so that's why I'm coming here with a 6 out of 10. All right, guys, I want to stay down here at the table real quick and talk about the components. I'm going to go ahead and give these components a 9 out of 10. I think these are some excellent components to the game, right? Of course, you have these wooden momentum cubes, and I just love them. Look, they're very thick. They're very sturdy. They feel great in your hand. The iconography here on each side of the cube is really great, and I do enjoy that. You know, there's not a lot of fading that happens with maybe sometimes these inks get can fade on the board. So I love all of these momentum cubes in the way they feel. The board itself, this exploration board here, is wooden. So let me maneuver all this. Okay, so you do have a dual layered wooden exploration board, and this thing is nice as well. Let me get all these cubes back. You'll have this nice felt bag where you will place all of the cubes in. Of course, you have the wooden hiker pawn that you will have as well. You got player boards. These are just cardboard player boards, but they're nice and thick and sturdy. Now, it would have been really cool if these were dual layered. That would have been close to a 10 out of 10 for me with the components, but you got the different color of the player boards, and then you have a player aid here, which is phenomenal, which discusses the movement rules and the scoring rules on the back side of these player aids. We got some wooden pine cone tokens that you guys can use in this game. And then last but not least, we have a lovely score pad. All right, so all of your components are gonna fit with inside this little box area. There'll be no lid lift. Everything fits in perfect. So to me, guys, look, I think really the standout for me with this game is the wooden board and these awesome momentum cubes. I think they've done an excellent job with the presentation, the production here, and the artwork. So that's why I'm giving this one a 9 out of 10. Alrighty, moving on to the setup. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the setup a 10 out of 10 here. Look, Northwest is very, very easy to get to the table, guys, and super easy to set up. All you're doing is handing everybody a player aid card, their little journal board. You take out that main board, and then you take the bag and basically dump all the cubes onto the board, and then you just arrange them to where they all fit in the little sockets. 2 minutes, maybe, at least 90 seconds to 2 minutes to set this bad boy up. Super easy, super fast. 10 out of 10 here with this setup. Okay, moving on to the length. So it does say 30 minutes on the box, and I'm gonna go ahead and give this one an 8 out of 10. I think there's a great length to this style of game. Once you guys get the hang of it, this thing does start to move really quick because you have an idea of exactly what you kind of want to go for. In terms of that 30-minute mark, I think that holds very true. A lot of your games are gonna be about 30, 35 minutes. Now, I will say maybe the first or second time you play this game, it might be around 40 to 45 minutes just because you're trying to learn all of the different movements and patterns and things like that of where you can go. But really, guys, this game flows very quickly because everybody's taking cubes just from the board and everybody only has one pawn that they are moving around. So there will be times where you get stuck in the terms of like you'll only be able to take a certain cube if you don't have any pine cones to move extra spaces. And so that moves the game and the turns along very quickly. But I think they've done a great job here with the length. 8 out of 10. All right, guys, moving on to the difficulty here. So I'm gonna go ahead, as always, the higher the number, the more challenging we feel the game is. The lower the number, the easier we feel the game is. And I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 2 out of 10. I think Northwest is a very approachable game. I think it's very easy. They do have, yes, there's a lot of, you do have to know what cube is going to make you move. So, you know, the fern moves a certain way, the mushrooms move a certain way, right? They all score differently, but having that player aid in there to reference and look at is super easy. So it's like, oh, my opponent took a mushroom. That means I can take any cube around me. Or my opponent took a maple. I can only take a cube that's in a diagonal space around me. So I think having that player aid really, really helps be able to teach this game and be able to play play and understand this game here. So that's why I'm coming in with a 2 out of 10. And of course, the scoring is on the backside, what makes it super easy. And you guys are just basically trying to fill your journal and collect these different sets of cubes to be able to score the highest points. So for me, very approachable game, very easy. 2 out of 10 in terms of the difficulty. All right, guys, moving on to the replayability. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this one an 8 out of 10. I think there's some great replayability here with this game, and that's basically just gonna be the different cubes. You're gonna mix that bag up. All the cubes have different sides. So there are sides of the cubes that have like a pine cone icon. And so when you take that, you'll be able to collect these pine cones, which will score you extra victory points at the end of the game, or they'll help you move more spaces than what you're normally locked to. And so each side of those cubes have a pine cone space, but because you're shuffling them up and putting them in different combinations, the areas or the cubes that have pine cones on them are going to change. Of course, depending on what is around you as well, your set collection is going to change. You know, one game you might be able to get a lot of ferns, the other games you're going to have a lot of maples and whatnot. You know, typical stuff that games do with replayability. But for me, I think what makes this so great is because of that playtime, of how quickly it moves and how quickly the turns flow. You play it one time, you're like, oh man, I want to be able to play it again because it really flew by super quick. So I think they've done a great job with kind of the setup, the theme, and the mechanics here to help with this replayability, making it an 8 out of 10. All right, guys, moving on to the price here. So I went ahead and backed this for $30 US on Kickstarter. I'm gonna go ahead and give that price a 9 out of 10. I think that is an excellent price point for this game, for the production value and the components that you're gonna get. Look, wooden board, wooden cubes, wooden tokens, things like that. Those are deluxeified components. And in this day and age, for a board game to have some of these deluxeified components and be $30 is an excellent price point. Most of these I would see nowadays, if Northwest probably came out, you're looking at $45 maybe for the deluxe edition of this game. And so I think for that price point at $30, 9 out of 10. Now, what is my opinion on where you should be looking to buy this game? I would say right around the $40 price point range. I would say if you could pick this up for that $40 price point, I think that's going to be a great pickup for you guys. I would say at $45, I think that's where I've saw a couple pieces. I would kind of give that a 7 out of 10. I think, like I mentioned earlier, that would be the normal price range I would think if this game were to come out on Kickstarter right now for $45. So if you were able to see it for $45, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. If you were to see it for $40, that's more of an 8. Anything lower than a $40, I think you're at an excellent price point, and I would definitely encourage you to look at picking Northwest up if it hits that price. But all in all, like I said, for $30 US, I'm coming here with a 9 out of 10 for this one. All right, guys, moving on to my overall rating. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Northwest an 8 out of 10. I think Northwest is a very good game. The production value is awesome. The setup makes this one super easy to get to the table. The length is super quick, so it allows you to play this game multiple times. There's some great replayability here, and of course, for the price, picking this one up, I felt that was excellent as well. Let's go ahead and talk about some things that I really enjoyed about the game. So there's really two things that I enjoyed about this one. The number one is the mechanics of the game itself. There's the unique mechanics of having all of these different cubes, and your opponent takes a cube and you have to move based upon what cube that your opponent took. So there can be a lot of strategy here with this game, and sometimes maybe, you know, your opponent is looking for a certain cube, and so you're trying to see what you can take around you that's going to kind of stick your opponent in a position where they won't be able to get those cubes that you need. And so it's this really cool, unique strategy of, do I take what I need to help me score points? Or maybe do I take something and not score as many points in order to make sure my opponent does not get to the cube that they are looking to or that they need? And so I think there's just a different variety of options here. You know, you got 5 different ways to score the game. I love the cube system, and I love how everybody is just controlling one hiker. So really enjoyed the unique mechanics of this one. The second thing I really enjoyed about this game is I love how easy it is to get to the table and really how portable this game is. You know, this is a smaller box game, right? So this is super easy to bring to a game night, super easy to carry if you're traveling somewhere. With the wooden board and the wooden cubes themselves, you know, you've seen, if you looked at the Kickstarter campaign, there's videos of them playing Northwest outside, and I think that's what's really cool as well. The components here of this game are allow you to play this indoors, would allow you to play this outdoors. You could go hiking and play Northwest, right? Because of these cubes and the board and the production value of it. And I really love how accessible it makes this game to be able to play. All right, guys, well, let's go ahead and talk about two things that I particularly did not like about this game. The very first one is sometimes it seems like, or for me, it seems like there's certain cubes that are best that you're always wanting to try to go for. And so for me, that would be the fern and the maples, right? Of course, you have the Bigfoot in there that's gonna be able to score you a lot of points and you can stack Bigfoots up. But for ferns, if they're orthogonally adjacent, they're gonna score you 2 points per next one. Maples, if they're diagonally adjacent, they're gonna score you two per grouping. And so it just seemed like when you are playing this game, it's everybody's trying to go for ferns or everybody's trying to go for maples. And I don't know if that's the way that was designed, or maybe I'm completely wrong in that aspect, but I think it was just kind of, I didn't like how it seemed like there's certain cubes that are the best cubes that you want to be trying to go for every single time. I wish there was ways like maybe you could fill your whole board up with mushrooms, but mushrooms are only 1 point. Like for every grouping of mushrooms, or like every other mushroom you had, it would give you bonus points or something like that, right? But the bees really, I think, are one of the most worthless ones because they just score you 1 point for every other memento cube that has a different symbol around it. And really, like most of the time, you're only scoring 3 or 4 points. And so I just feel like the bees are kind of worthless to get. But that's one of the things that I particularly did not enjoy or like about this game. It just seemed that there's certain cubes that are the best. And so you're trying to go for these cubes. Everybody else is trying to go for these cubes. And yeah, I don't know. I could be completely wrong there. The second one that I particularly did not like is sometimes your opponents can actually lock you out. So there can be almost like a take that type of feel to the game where your opponent knows you're trying to get a certain cube, or there's not a bunch of cubes, you know, because cubes are getting taken off the board, right? And so there might be a situation where your opponent takes a cube and let's say you need to go diagonal, but you cannot, or there's only one cube that you can take. You're forced to take that cube even if you don't want it, or if there's no valid move around you, then you have to go somewhere else or on the board where there's a mushroom. So you're kind of forced to take a mushroom, which is only 1 point at the end of the game. And so sometimes if you're playing with that type of player who wants to have that take that feel, they can kind of do this and essentially screw you if they want to. And so that's just kind of one last thing that I did not particularly enjoy about that game, is that can happen sometimes depending on who you are playing this game with. But all in all, guys, look, I still think Northwest is a very good game, excellent game. I would recommend you guys try this game. I would recommend you pick this one up. Love it, love it, love it. Last but not least, guys, if I had the opportunity to back Northwest again, would I do so? Absolutely, 1,000,000% yes, as always. For me, the main reason would just be the price point that I was able to get this game at. Really, really good price point. Really didn't have to pay a whole lot for shipping. I think shipping was only 10 bucks for this one. And so going into the game with that price point, I already had a really good feeling about it. And then with the production value as well, that just kind of solidified for me is definitely going ahead and back this one again. All right, guys. Well, look, that goes ahead and wraps up my in-depth review of Northwest. If you guys enjoyed this content, smash that like button, hit that notification bell, drop down in the comments below. Have you guys played Northwest? What are your thoughts and opinions on this game? And as always, guys, if you are not subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe so I can keep bringing you some more awesome content. All right, guys, y'all have a great one. Bye.